The hall was glowing. Pink and blue balloons, laughter, cameras flashing. Everyone was celebrating their babies, or so she thought. Her husband stood beside her, smiling just enough for the pictures. But when the music paused, he cleared his throat and handed her an envelope. Right there, in front of family and friends. Divorce papers, gasps, silence. Her hands trembled. He smirked. "Don't make a scene," he whispered coldly. "You'll be fine without me." She swallowed her pain, forced a smile, and took the mic. "Since we're making announcements," she said softly. The crowd leaned in. Even he looked curious. Her next words made his jaw drop, and the entire room erupt. "What do you think she said?" "Hello, family. Welcome back. Before we begin, I have a small but heartfelt request. Please subscribe. Your support is what keeps these stories alive. Every time you click that button, you're helping us share voices that would otherwise be forgotten and stories that deserve to be heard. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from, because together we are not just telling stories, we are keeping hope alive." The morning sun spilled through the tall windows of the Moore mansion, touching everything in gold. The marble floors, the glass vases, the wide staircase that gleamed like a movie set. But inside that glow, Olivia Moore felt cold. Her reflection in the hallway mirror didn't look like her anymore. The girl who once laughed freely, who dreamed of a cozy family and love that didn't hurt, that girl was gone. In her place stood a woman with tired eyes, 7 months pregnant, wearing a designer dress that didn't fit her heart. From downstairs came the sound of Margaret's voice, sharp, polished, filled with disapproval. "If you're going to represent this family, Olivia, you could at least learn how to sit properly." "You're slouching again." Olivia touched her belly and stood straighter. "Yes, Margaret," she said softly. Margaret's lips curved into what might have been a smile if it had any warmth. "At least you listen," she said. "That's more than I can say for your people." "My people?" Olivia repeated, though she already knew what that meant. "Working class manners," Margaret said, waving her hand as if the word itself were beneath her. "You don't host charity dinners with casserole recipes and hand-me-down smiles. You need grace, my dear. Real grace." Olivia said nothing. She'd learned silence was safer. Margaret leaned closer, lowering her voice. "You're lucky my son married you. I told him better, but Daniel always did have a soft spot for strays." The words hit like ice. Olivia forced a smile. "I'll try to be a better stray." Margaret's eyes narrowed. "Watch your tone, dear." Just then, Daniel walked in. Tall, perfect suit, his hair slicked back like he was born for magazine covers. He looked at his wife and then at his mother. "What's going on here?" he asked, sounding more bored than curious. "Nothing," Margaret said quickly. "Just reminding Olivia of her presentation." Daniel's eyes drifted over Olivia, from her swollen belly to her bare feet. "You should dress up more," he said. "We have guests later." "I can't wear heels anymore, Daniel," she said quietly. "The doctor said—" "Doctors exaggerate. My mother walked in heels until the day I was born." Margaret smiled proudly. "That's right. A woman who wants to look her best will find a way." Olivia wanted to scream, but instead she said softly, "I'll change." Daniel nodded, satisfied. "Good. Samantha will be here too. She's bringing some people from the foundation." Her heart froze at the name Samantha. Her best friend, her maid of honor, the woman now showing up at her husband's side. Margaret clapped her hands once. "Wonderful. Samantha's such a delight. So elegant. Such class." Olivia turned away, pretending to fix a vase, hiding the sting behind a polite smile. In the reflection of the glass, she saw Daniel check his phone, smiling at a message. She didn't need to guess who it was from. That night, the dinner party unfolded like a play. The chandelier lights shimmered, and laughter bounced off the walls. Olivia smiled when she was supposed to, nodded when people spoke to her, and poured champagne she couldn't drink. And there, next to her husband, sat Samantha. She looked radiant, in a gold dress that caught every light. Her manicured hand rested comfortably on Daniel's arm, as if it belonged there. "Olivia," Samantha said sweetly, "you look so glowing." Pregnancy really suits you, Olivia smiled. Thank you. You look happy, Samantha's eyes flickered. I am, she said with the kind of confidence that made the words sting harder. Across the table, Daniel chuckled at something Samantha whispered. Olivia couldn't hear it, but she didn't have to. His smile, the one she hadn't seen in months, said enough. Margaret raised her glass. To Daniel, she said proudly, for his success, his leadership, and his taste in both business and company. Everyone laughed. Everyone but Olivia. She held her glass steady, her knuckles white. When dinner was over, she slipped outside for air. The night was cool. The city lights shimmered below the mansion's balcony. She placed a hand on her belly and whispered, I'm sorry, babies. I'm trying. I promise. I'm trying. Behind her, the sliding door opened. Daniel stepped out, holding a drink. There you are, he said, leaning against the railing. You disappeared. I needed air, she said softly. He studied her. You embarrassed my mother tonight. I did nothing. You were quiet. People notice when you're quiet. It makes them uncomfortable, Olivia turned to him. Then maybe they should stop saying things that deserve silence. His expression darkened. Watch it. She met his eyes for the first time all evening. You brought her here. My best friend. You think that doesn't make me uncomfortable? Daniel took a slow sip. You should be grateful I didn't leave you sooner, he said calmly. At least I'm being honest now. Olivia's voice trembled, but she didn't look away. You will, she said quietly. What? You said I should be grateful you didn't leave me sooner. But you will. And when you do, you'll regret it. Daniel laughed, cold and humorless. You? You think you can hurt me? Olivia, you wouldn't last a day without my name. He brushed past her and went back inside. For a long moment, Olivia stood alone under the night sky, the wind playing with her hair, the babies kicking softly inside her. Her heart was breaking. But something else was being born too. Not revenge, not hate, something quieter, stronger, resolve. The next morning, she woke to a message from an unknown number. Your father's lawyer. Urgent matter. Please call. Her heart raced as she dialed back. Mrs. Moore, a calm male voice said. My name is Charles Bennett. I worked with your late father. He left something for you. Confidential. Something for me? She asked. My father's been gone 3 years. Yes, but certain instructions were time-locked. They became active once your pregnancy reached 7 months. Time-locked? She frowned. What does that mean? Your father was a very cautious man. He created a trust, a large one, for your children. But there's a clause. What kind of clause? The trust will activate only after you give birth, Charles said. Not before. Olivia's breath caught. How much money are we talking about? There was a pause on the line. Then Charles said quietly, $1 billion. The phone nearly slipped from her hand. What? 1 billion. Set aside for you and your children. Your father was aware of your husband's tendencies. He wanted to protect you. Olivia pressed a hand to her chest. My father knew. He did. And he suspected your husband might try to control your finances once the pregnancy began. He built this clause to prevent it. No one, not even your husband, can touch the trust until after birth. Olivia's mind spun. Daniel's voice from the night before echoed in her head. You should be grateful I didn't leave you sooner. Her father's words from years ago flashed back. The last time they spoke before he died. Marry for love, live, not for power, and if power comes, make sure it's yours. Now she understood what he meant. That evening, Olivia met Charles in person at a quiet cafe far from the Moore estate. She wore sunglasses and a scarf, careful not to draw attention. Charles was older, gray-haired, with kind eyes. He handed her a sealed folder. Inside are the details. I suggest you keep this hidden until the twins are born. Olivia nodded. Daniel can't know. No, Charles said firmly. If he divorces you before birth, he forfeits all claim automatically. The trust was written that way on purpose. Olivia blinked. He forfeits everything? Yes. And based on what I've seen in the news, Mrs. Moore, your husband looks impatient. She gave a small, humorless laugh. He always is. Charles leaned forward. Endure it, Olivia. Just until the birth. Don't react. Don't argue. Pretend everything is normal. She nodded slowly. I can do that. But inside something shifted. The fear that had ruled her for years, the fear of Daniel's power, his family, their wealth, began to fade. She wasn't powerless. She was simply waiting, waiting for the right time. That night, as Daniel came home smelling like Samantha's perfume, Olivia sat in the living room pretending to read. He didn't even glance her way. He walked past, muttering, I'm filing those papers next week. She looked up. What papers? Divorce, he said casually. My lawyer will handle it. I'll make sure you get something for the babies. Something, she repeated quietly. Daniel smirked. Don't worry. I'm not cruel. You'll have the guest house, maybe a nanny. He walked upstairs without another word. Olivia stayed still, heart pounding, her hand resting over her belly. The babies kicked again, as if reminding her they were waiting too. Just a few more weeks, she whispered to them. Then everything changes. The next morning began the same way most mornings did, with silence. Daniel left early for meetings. Though Olivia knew what that really meant, his schedule matched Samantha's Instagram stories too perfectly. Breakfast for one, lunch at the golf club, dinner she cooked but never shared. Every day blurred into the next, a quiet loop of humiliation and endurance. Margaret ruled the house like a queen mother. Her voice echoed through the marble halls, giving orders to maids and gardeners, as if she owned them all. And in many ways she did. Olivia was simply another servant who happened to wear a wedding ring. Where is Daniel's blue suit? Margaret barked one morning. The one from Armani. He needs it for the press shoot. Olivia folded baby clothes at the table. He wore it yesterday. It's at the cleaners, Margaret's eyes narrowed. You should have had it ready. I didn't know about the shoot, Olivia said carefully. Well, you should have known. That's the problem with you, Olivia. You never think ahead. Margaret paused, then smiled with thin lips. No wonder Daniel looks elsewhere. The words stung, even though she'd heard worse. Olivia didn't flinch. I'm sure he tells you everything, she said quietly. Oh, he does, Margaret replied proudly. He tells me more than you'd want to know. At that moment, Olivia's phone buzzed on the counter. A message from an unknown number flashed. Meeting confirmed. Wednesday, 5 p.m. She quickly turned it face down. Margaret's eyes caught the movement. Who's that? She asked. Doctor's appointment, Olivia lied smoothly. Margaret's mouth twisted. Well, I hope it's for something that will make you more useful around here. Olivia smiled faintly. I'll ask. That night, she lay awake in the massive bed, listening to Daniel snore beside her. The man she once loved, who once whispered promises of forever, now lay only inches away but felt miles apart. She watched the city lights through the window and whispered to herself, You chose this, Olivia. You'll finish it. 2 days later, Daniel came home late again, half drunk and smiling. Olivia was in the nursery folding baby blankets when he walked in without knocking. You've been spending a lot of money lately, he said. I bought the cribs, she answered, and baby clothes. You don't need to buy everything. We'll have plenty of gifts. You mean from Samantha? She asked before she could stop herself. Daniel's expression hardened. Don't start. I'm not starting. I'm asking. He stepped closer, his voice low. You know what your problem is, Olivia. You think being pregnant gives you power. It doesn't. It just makes you slower, softer, weaker. She met his gaze. Or it makes me patient. He laughed bitterly. Patient? That's one word for it. Others might call it pathetic. He turned to leave, then stopped at the door. We're going to the gala on Friday. Samantha's organizing it for charity. Be nice to her. Her throat tightened. Why would I? Because she'll be the face of my new foundation, he interrupted. She knows how to talk to people. You don't. He left before she could respond. That night she cried quietly in the dark, not from sadness anymore, but from the sheer weight of holding everything in. Wednesday came, and Olivia met Charles Bennett again in his office downtown. He spread the documents on the table carefully. Everything is in place, he said. When the twins are born, the trust activates automatically. It's untouchable. Daniel can't access it even if you die before the birth. Your father thought of everything. Olivia swallowed hard. And if Daniel divorces me before that, then he forfeits his share entirely, Charles said. Your father added that clause after Daniel's last business scandal. Her eyes widened. My father knew about that? He did. He told me once, my daughter's marrying a shark. Let's make sure he can't bite. For the first time in months, Olivia laughed. A small, broken laugh, but real. Charles smiled kindly. You remind me of him. The same quiet steel. She looked down at her hands. I don't feel strong. You don't have to yet, he said gently. You just have to last. From that day on, something inside Olivia changed. She still played her part, the obedient wife, the quiet hostess, but her silence had a purpose now. Every insult became a reminder. Every humiliation became fuel. Every glance from Samantha or Margaret only sharpened her resolve. At the charity gala that Friday, she dressed in a soft blue gown that hugged her pregnant belly. She felt fragile but beautiful, a walking contradiction. As they entered the ballroom, cameras flashed. Daniel's arm was stiff around her. Samantha was already there, radiant and glowing, greeting donors with the ease of someone who knew she was winning. When she saw Olivia, her smile was polite but hollow. You look wonderful, Samantha said sweetly. Olivia returned it with calm eyes. You too. I see you've made yourself at home. Samantha's smile faltered slightly. I'm helping Daniel. You know how much he values loyalty, Olivia tilted her head. Loyalty, she repeated. That's one word for it. Daniel appeared beside them, glass of champagne in hand. Ladies, behave, he said with a smirk. No need for drama. Samantha slipped her hand through his arm. Don't worry, Daniel. Olivia knows her place. Olivia's heart pounded, but her voice stayed calm. Oh, I know it very well. Do you? Daniel's jaw tightened. Enough, Olivia. She smiled faintly and turned away, joining a group of guests before he could say more. She could feel his eyes on her, confused, maybe a little nervous. For the first time, he didn't control the room. Later that night, after the gala, Olivia sat alone in the car while Daniel spoke on the phone outside. His voice carried through the open window. She's unbearable lately, he said. I'm filing the papers soon. Once she's out, we can finally do what we planned. There was a pause, then laughter. Samantha's laughter. On the other end, yeah, Daniel continued. Once she's gone, we'll take everything. The house, the accounts, she won't see a dime. My lawyer says we can freeze the joint accounts before the divorce hits court. Olivia's hand went to her belly instinctively. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears. Every word sliced deeper, but every slice burned into memory. When Daniel finished his call, he opened the car door, acting like nothing had happened. You ready? He asked. Yes, she said calmly. Let's go home. He smiled, unaware that something irreversible had just shifted. Back at the mansion, Daniel went straight upstairs. Olivia stayed in the living room, staring at the dark fireplace, her hands resting protectively over her stomach. The house was silent, too big, too empty, too full of ghosts. Her father's photo sat on the bookshelf nearby. She looked at it and whispered, You were right, Dad. You always were. Then she heard footsteps again. Daniel was talking on the phone, louder this time. He walked into the hall, pacing near the study. Yeah, he was saying. Once she's out of the house, we'll take everything. His tone was low, confident. The words hit harder the second time. Olivia didn't move. She just listened. Every sound of his voice hardened her spine a little more. Finally, he went upstairs, laughing softly into the phone. The sound faded down the hall. Olivia stood there in the quiet, her reflection staring back at her in the dark window. Tired eyes, heavy belly, shaking hands. But her face didn't look weak anymore. It looked ready. She placed her hand gently over her stomach and whispered to her unborn children, her voice steady and clear. No, Daniel. I'll take everything. If you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love for you to join our community by hitting the subscribe button. Through our stories, we build hope and give a future to children and women who have been abused all over the world. Motivate us by subscribing and turning on your notification bell so you never miss a story that matters. Also, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from and how did this story speak to you? The morning of the baby shower began with perfect weather, clear skies, sunshine spilling through the tall glass windows of the Moore estate, and a soft breeze that carried the smell of roses from the garden. Everything looked perfect. Everything felt wrong. Pink and blue balloons lined the walkway, ribbons tied around golden chairs, and a banner that read, "Welcome the Moore Twins," hung proudly across the backyard stage. Photographers from local magazines set up by the pool, waiting for the happy couple to make their grand appearance. Olivia stood upstairs, staring out at it all through the bedroom window. Her makeup was flawless, her white maternity dress glowing under the light, but her heart was steady, not with fear this time, but focus. Today was the day. Behind her, Margaret's voice broke the silence. "Try not to look so nervous, dear." People can smell desperation. Olivia didn't turn around. "I'm not nervous." Margaret's reflection appeared in the mirror behind her, pearls around her neck, her hair pinned tight like a crown. "Good. Then you can focus on being gracious. There will be reporters, and Samantha will be here to help coordinate." Olivia turned. "Samantha? Here?" Margaret smiled thinly. "Of course. She's been part of Daniel's life for years now. We're a modern family, remember?" The way she said it, that smug calm, that subtle cruelty, made Olivia's fingers tighten around the edge of the vanity. Margaret looked her over, eyes scanning her from head to toe. "You've gained more than you should," she said casually. "Twins or not, appearances matter." Olivia met her gaze in the mirror. "Don't worry," she said quietly. "After today, appearances won't matter at all." Margaret frowned slightly as if she didn't understand the words, then brushed it off. "Just don't embarrass us." As she left, Olivia touched her belly gently. Her heart beat in rhythm with her baby's. Her father's words echoed in her mind. "Endure until the moment comes. Then don't hold back." Downstairs, the guests began to arrive. Family friends, business partners, women in pastel dresses holding expensive gifts and fake smiles. The air smelled like champagne and money. Daniel was the center of it all, charming as ever, shaking hands, laughing too loud, the perfect host. Olivia watched from the staircase, one hand resting on the railing, the other on her stomach. He looked up when he saw her and smiled, the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes. "There's my lovely wife," he said, taking her hand as cameras flashed. "Doesn't she look stunning?" Applause, flattery, pity. Olivia smiled for the cameras. The perfect wife, the perfect lie. When the reporters moved on, Daniel leaned in close and whispered, "Keep that smile on, sweetheart." "You're good at pretending," she whispered back. "So are you." He grinned slightly, as if amused by her courage. "Let's not ruin the show." As the party continued, the heat rose and laughter filled the garden. Samantha appeared an hour later, wearing a pale pink dress that matched the theme, her hair in soft curls, her perfume floating before she even arrived. "Darling," she exclaimed, rushing up to Olivia with open arms. "You look radiant." Olivia let the hug happen. "Thanks, Sam." "You too," Samantha laughed lightly. "Well, we had to make this day special for you." Daniel's been so excited. He wanted everything perfect. "Perfect," Olivia repeated softly. "Yes, that sounds like him." Margaret appeared beside them, smiling proudly. "You girls are like sisters. I always say it's good Daniel has someone as refined as Samantha around. She keeps things balanced." Olivia smiled back. "I'm sure she does." Samantha's eyes darted briefly to Daniel, who was laughing across the yard with a group of investors. Her expression softened for just a second. Guilt, maybe. Then it was gone. 2 hours into the party, the band stopped playing for the scheduled thank you speeches. Olivia sat near the front, hands folded over her belly, surrounded by guests waiting to hear sweet words of gratitude and baby names. Daniel stood up, microphone in hand, flashing that practiced public smile. "First of all," he began, "thank you everyone for being here to celebrate this incredible day. My family means the world to me, and I want to thank my mother, Margaret, for organizing all this." Applause. Margaret beamed. And of course, Daniel continued, my wife, Olivia. She's been through a lot these last few months. Olivia smiled faintly. She felt her heart start to race, not from fear, but instinct. She could sense something coming. The air felt tight. Daniel turned to her. You've done your best, Liv. I appreciate that. Really? A strange hush spread across the guests. His tone wasn't loving. It was dismissive, almost rehearsed. Actually, he continued, there's something I need to share today. Something important. He reached into his jacket pocket. Olivia's chest tightened. This isn't easy, he said with a small laugh, though his eyes gleamed. But honesty matters in any relationship. He turned, faced her, and held out an envelope. Olivia, he said softly, I think it's time we both face the truth. The crowd grew still. The band members looked at each other nervously. Daniel smiled wider. I'm filing for divorce. The world stopped. Gasps, whispers. Someone's champagne glass shattered against the floor. Daniel placed the envelope in her hand like it was a gift. Don't make a scene, he said quietly. You'll be fine without me. Olivia stared at the envelope, then up at his smug face. She could feel the cameras flashing again, though now it wasn't celebration. It was blood in the water. Margaret's mouth fell open. Even Samantha froze. For a moment, Olivia thought she might break. Her throat burned. Her hands trembled. The babies kicked inside her like they could feel her heart cracking. But then, clarity. Calm. The kind of peace that comes right before a storm. She slowly placed the envelope on the table beside her and stood up. Every eye followed her. Daniel's smirk twitched. Since we're making announcements, she said softly, taking the mic from his hand. The crowd fell silent. First of all, she said, her voice steady, thank you everyone for coming. It means a lot to me that you're all here to celebrate our children. My children. With me. Daniel frowned. Olivia, sit down. She ignored him. I wasn't planning to say anything today, but since we're sharing surprises. She smiled faintly, turning toward the guests. I do have some news. Margaret shifted nervously in her seat. Samantha's face was pale. Olivia looked around the crowd, meeting their curious, waiting eyes. The reporters, the neighbors, the friends who had whispered behind her back. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing against her chest. Then she spoke. Olivia took a slow breath. Her hand didn't shake anymore. Her heart didn't race. For the first time in months, she felt completely steady. I do have some news, she said, her voice calm but carrying through the air like a soft blade. The crowd leaned in. Even the photographer lowered his camera. Daniel's smirk faded slightly, the confidence slipping just enough for her to notice. Olivia glanced down at her belly, then looked back up at the guests. Some of you might not know, but my father, before he passed away, set up a trust fund for his grandchildren, for these two little lives we're waiting on. The murmurs started. People smiled politely, thinking she was about to share something sentimental. Daniel crossed his arms. Olivia, that's not the time. She raised a hand to silence him. It's okay, dear. You've had your turn. A ripple of awkward laughter moved through the guests. She smiled sweetly. My father was a wise man. He believed love should protect, not control. He also believed that money should go to those who deserve it, not to those who think they own people. Daniel's eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? I'm talking about this, Olivia said, her voice rising just slightly. My father's trust fund was finalized last month. It's worth $1 billion. The crowd gasped. An audible, collective inhale. Samantha blinked like she hadn't heard right. $1 billion? Olivia nodded. Yes, $1 billion to be exact. And it activates the moment I give birth. She turned to Daniel. And according to the terms, it's in my name. And my children's. No one else's. The silence was heavy now. Thick, electric. You could feel the shift in power happening right there, in the middle of the rose garden. Daniel's expression froze, the practiced charm gone from his face. What? He said sharply. That's not possible. Oh, it is, Olivia said, her smile widening. And since you decided to end our marriage before the birth, you're legally excluded from the trust. Every clause, every loophole. My father thought of them all. Her voice softened, but the words cut like glass. So congratulations, Daniel. Your timing is impeccable. The entire backyard exploded. People whispered, gasped, turned to one another. Phones came out, recording. Someone from a local blog shouted, "Wait, is this real?" Cameras flashed. Margaret's face went ghost white. Samantha covered her mouth. Daniel just stood there, his hand still hanging by his side, the color draining from his cheeks. Olivia handed the mic to a stunned event host and stepped off the stage, calm, graceful, like a queen walking through wreckage. Margaret rushed up to her. You can't just announce things like that. You'll ruin Daniel's reputation." Olivia turned to her slowly. "He ruined mine first." Margaret blinked, speechless. "You ungrateful." "Enough, Margaret," Olivia said, her tone firm but quiet. "You don't have to pretend anymore. We both know you raised him to think people are things he can own." "Well," she placed a hand on her belly. "You can't own what you can't reach." Margaret's knees wobbled. The old woman's hand trembled as she reached for a chair. "This is nonsense," she muttered. "You can't have that kind of money." "Oh, but I do," Olivia said softly. "And soon your son will have nothing." Daniel finally found his voice. "You planned this," he said, his tone sharp, his face tight with fury. "You knew." You stood there smiling, pretending to be weak. "I didn't pretend," Olivia interrupted. "I just stopped fighting battles that weren't worth it." "You taught me that." He stepped closer, his voice dropping low. "Do you realize what you've done? You've humiliated me in front of everyone." She looked at him calmly. "No, Daniel. You did that to yourself." He started, but Samantha suddenly cut in. "Daniel, we need to go," she whispered, grabbing his arm. "The reporters are—" He yanked his arm free. "Not now, Sam." Olivia looked between them, her voice cool. "Oh, don't fight over me." "You make such a lovely couple." Samantha's eyes filled with tears. "Olivia, I didn't mean—" Olivia smiled faintly. "You did. You just didn't think it would ever come back to you." As the chaos unfolded, guests began to scatter. Some were already uploading videos. Others whispered and stared, pretending to check their phones. The glittering, polished Moore family image was burning right before their eyes, and no one was stopping it. Daniel stormed toward the house. "We're leaving," he barked at his mother. Margaret followed, fanning herself, muttering, "This can't be happening." Samantha trailed behind, face pale and tight. Olivia remained outside, watching them go. The sunlight hit her face, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't hide from it. Her best friend Anna, one of the few people Daniel hadn't pushed away, approached slowly. "Liv, I don't even know what to say. That was, wow." Olivia gave a small smile. "Messy? Powerful," Anna said, eyes wide. Daniel's face looked like he swallowed a cactus. Olivia laughed quietly. "Good." Anna hesitated. "You really had that money all along?" "I didn't have it yet," Olivia said, "but my father's trust is airtight." Daniel thought he was cutting me off. He was actually cutting himself out. Anna whistled softly. "That's, poetic." Olivia looked toward the mansion, where the sounds of shouting were now faintly echoing through the open doors. "No, Anna. That's justice inside." Daniel was losing it. Margaret tried to calm him. "We can fix this, Daniel. We'll talk to the lawyer." "She played me," Daniel snapped, pacing. "She let me walk right into this. She made me look like a fool." "You made yourself look like a fool," Samantha muttered under her breath. Daniel turned on her. "What did you say?" Samantha straightened her shoulders. "You're blaming everyone but yourself. You did this, Daniel. You pushed her. You humiliated her. What did you think she'd do? Cry forever?" For a moment he looked at her like she was a stranger. "Get out," he said flatly. "What?" "Out!" he roared, throwing a glass across the room. It shattered against the wall. Samantha flinched and left without another word. Margaret's voice trembled. "Daniel, please, leave me alone," he snapped, gripping his hair. $1 billion. I could have had—" He stopped mid-sentence. His eyes widened as he realized the full extent of what he'd lost. She knew, he whispered. She knew about the clause. Margaret looked sick. What clause? He turned to her, face white with rage. The one that locks me out if I divorce her before the birth. Margaret gasped. Oh, Daniel? Oh, Daniel, what? He yelled. You told me to divorce her now. You said to do it before the twins came so she wouldn't have leverage. Margaret went silent. Her lips trembled. Daniel slammed his hand against the wall. You destroyed everything. Outside, the party was over. The guests were gone. Only a few workers were cleaning up the remains. Balloons deflated, petals scattered, half-eaten cake sitting in the sun. Olivia stood near the pool, watching the reflection of the pink and blue decorations rippling on the water. She could still hear Daniel's voice echo faintly inside the house, shouting, crashing, breaking. Anna touched her shoulder. You okay? Olivia nodded. Better than I've been in a long time. Anna smiled. I'm proud of you. Don't be, Olivia said softly. Not yet. He's not done, and neither am I. Later that evening, when the house finally went quiet, Daniel walked out onto the back patio. The sun was setting, and Olivia stood near the railing, her silhouette calm against the fading light. He stopped a few feet behind her. You think you've beaten me? He said, his voice low and shaking with anger. Olivia turned slowly. Her face was calm, almost kind. No, Daniel. He frowned. Then what is this? She stepped closer, close enough for him to see the fire behind her eyes. This, she said quietly, is just the beginning. He blinked, thrown off. What? She smiled, the kind that chilled him. No, she said softly. I've just started. The video of the baby shower had gone viral before sunrise. Every gossip page, business blog, and social feed was flooded with it. Billionaire husband humiliates pregnant wife. Her response destroys him. By morning, Daniel Moore wasn't the polished businessman anymore. He was a meme. Clips of Olivia's calm announcement. $1 billion, all in my name and my children's, played on repeat across the internet. Underneath, comments poured in, Queen behavior. She planned that like a movie. I hope the twins inherit her fire. Olivia stayed offline. She didn't need to see the world cheering for her. She already knew she'd struck the first real blow, but she also knew Daniel wouldn't go down without a fight. 3 days after the baby shower, she woke up to flashing cameras outside the estate gates. Reporters shouted questions. Headlines screamed lies. Olivia Moore cheated with best friend's brother? Sources claim billionaire wife hid assets from husband. She stood at the window, watching the chaos below through the curtain. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Texts, calls, notifications. Then a message from Daniel's lawyer appeared on the screen. Daniel is filing for emergency custody of the unborn twins. Her knees weakened. Custody, she whispered. Charles Bennett, her father's lawyer and now her confidant, arrived an hour later. His calm voice anchored her. They're claiming you're mentally unstable, he explained. They say you're planning to flee the country with the trust money. Olivia sat still for a long moment, staring down at her trembling hands. Then she lifted her head, her voice quiet but sharp. He's trying to break me. Charles nodded. He's desperate. Moore Enterprises stock dropped 15% overnight after the video went viral. She looked out the window. Let him fall. He studied her face. You could sue him for defamation. She shook her head. No, let him talk. The more noise he makes, the more people will see who he really is. And she was right. Over the next week, Daniel appeared on talk shows, trying to spin the story. He told reporters Olivia was unwell, that she'd been influenced by greedy lawyers. He called her announcement a cruel ambush. But the public wasn't buying it. His smirk, once magnetic, now looked smug. His tone, once charming, now sounded cruel. Every word he spoke made him look guiltier. Olivia, silent, poised, heavily pregnant, became the symbol of quiet strength. When she went out for a short walk in the park one morning, a stranger approached her with a warm smile. You're her, aren't you? The woman asked. The wife. The strong one. Olivia blinked, startled. I guess I am. The woman squeezed her hand gently. Don't let them turn you into the villain. You already won. Olivia smiled faintly. Not yet, she said, but soon. Across town, Daniel was losing control of everything. At the office, his boardroom had turned into a war zone. Investors were pulling out. Journalists were asking hard questions. His once loyal assistant avoided eye contact. The air felt poisoned with fear. Then came Samantha. She burst into his office one night, her makeup streaked with tears, voice shaking. "You plan to leave me too?" she shouted. Daniel barely looked up from his laptop. "Don't start this, Sam." "Don't start this?" She slammed a folder on his desk. "I lied for you. I defended you. And I find out from your mother that you're planning to marry that senator's daughter once this divorce is over." Daniel sighed as if bored. "You were useful, Samantha." "Don't confuse that with love." Her eyes filled with disbelief. "Useful?" She laughed bitterly. "Do you think I don't know about the forged contracts? The fake client signatures? The missing money?" He looked up sharply. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I do," she said, her voice trembling with fury. "You left your laptop open last week. I took photos." Daniel froze. "You wouldn't—" "I already did," she cut in. "And I sent them to a journalist. And to your board." She turned and walked out. He didn't even try to stop her. Within 48 hours, the leaked documents were everywhere. Fake invoices, altered numbers, offshore accounts. The story hit every major outlet. More enterprises under investigation for fraud. The stock price crashed. The board panicked. Investors called emergency meetings. Daniel's phone rang nonstop. Lawyers, accountants, his mother. "Tell me this isn't true," as Margaret cried over the line. "You're destroying our family name." "Enough about the damn name, Dunner," he snapped. "Do you know what that woman did?" "She ruined me." But deep down, he knew it wasn't Olivia who'd ruined him. She'd simply stopped shielding him from the truth. While Daniel shouted into phones and cursed the world, Olivia sat quietly in Charles Bennett's office downtown, signing papers. Stacks of documents filled the table. Ownership transfers, stock purchases, confidentiality agreements. "The company's value is dropping fast," Charles said, adjusting his glasses. "If we move quietly through holding companies, we can acquire significant control before he realizes what's happening." Olivia nodded slowly. "And he won't know." "Not until it's done," Charles assured her. "Your father's trust will act as the primary investor." "All perfectly legal." She looked at the papers before her. "He spent years making me feel small, making me think I couldn't survive without him." She exhaled softly. "Now I want him to understand what that feels like." Charles hesitated. "Olivia, this isn't revenge, is it?" She smiled faintly. "No, it's balance." Weeks passed. Daniel's empire continued to crumble. Every time he tried to repair his image, another headline landed like a punch. "Daniel Moore accused of fraud. Former employees sue for unpaid wages. Billionaire's mistress leaks shocking evidence." Meanwhile, Olivia appeared once on a morning talk show. Her voice was calm, her dress simple, her tone gracious. "I don't hate Daniel," she said. "I just wish him peace. And I hope he learns that you can't build happiness on someone else's pain." The host smiled. "You've handled this with such grace." Olivia just replied softly, "I learned that sometimes silence says more than shouting." That interview went viral too. Her calmness made Daniel's anger look pathetic. Public opinion turned entirely against him. Investors abandoned him. Bankers refused his calls. His own board began meeting without him. And through it all, Olivia kept signing. Every signature brought her closer to owning the company that had once been used to control her. Daniel's nights became a blur of alcohol, phone calls, and panic. He stopped sleeping. He stopped eating. He stopped being feared. One night he sat alone in his office, staring at the wall of framed awards. They looked fake now, props from a life built on lies. He poured another drink and whispered her name under his breath, almost like a curse. "Olivia." The next morning, when he arrived at work, half the office was empty. His CFO resigned. His assistant cleared her desk. Even the janitor avoided him. "Sir," one of the remaining board members said cautiously, "there's a new investor buying up company shares. Fast." They've already reached 40%. Daniel's jaw tightened. Who? We don't know. The purchases are coming through shell corporations, but they're all connected to something called Bennett Holdings. He froze. Bennett? The man nodded. Yes, sir. Do you know them? Daniel didn't answer. He walked into his office, slammed the door, and ripped open his files. He called his accountant, then his lawyer, then another broker. All gave him the same name, Bennett Holdings. His pulse quickened. He knew that name. Charles Bennett, Olivia's lawyer, her father's old friend. No, Daniel muttered, pacing. No, no, no. He grabbed the report and scanned the list of transactions. Everyone pointed back to her. She's buying it, he whispered, eyes wide. She's buying my company. His reflection in the window looked like a stranger. Wild-eyed, hollow, desperate. He slammed his fist against the glass. You think you can take everything from me? He shouted at his own reflection. But deep down, he knew she already had. That evening, Olivia sat in Charles's office again. The lights were dim, the air calm. The city outside glowed under the dusk. Her belly was heavy now. The twins would arrive soon. But her hand was steady as she flipped through the final set of documents. These are the last one, Charles said, sliding a folder toward her. Once you sign, you'll hold 51% of More Enterprises. You'll have complete control. Olivia stared at the papers. Her father's name was printed in the fine legal clauses. The man who had seen all of this coming. Does he know yet? She asked quietly. Charles smiled. He found out about the shell company this morning. Olivia exhaled softly. Then I guess he finally knows what it feels like. Charles's expression softened. He'll fight this, Olivia. He'll try every trick he can try, she said calmly, but he can't win a game that was built on lies. He's run out of pieces to move. Charles looked at her thoughtfully. May I ask something? Off the record? She nodded. What do you want out of this? He asked. Power? Revenge? Justice? Olivia's gaze lingered on the papers in front of her. Her reflection shimmered faintly in the polished table. Not the broken woman she once was, but someone sharper, stronger. I want peace, she said quietly, and peace isn't free. This is the price. She picked up the pen, steady and sure, and began signing. Each stroke of ink felt like closing a door she'd been trapped behind for years. When she finished, Charles gathered the papers and slid them neatly into his briefcase. That's it, he said softly. It's done. By morning, you'll be the majority owner. He can't touch the company without your permission. Olivia leaned back in her chair, exhausted but calm. Outside, the city lights flickered. 1,000 tiny reminders that life went on. She placed a hand over her belly. The twins kicked softly as if approving. They'll never live like I did, she whispered. Never. Charles smiled. Your father would be proud, Olivia. She nodded slowly, her eyes calm, her voice almost a whisper. By the time he knows, she said, it'll all belong to me. The hospital lights were soft and white, too clean, too calm for a day that felt this big. Outside, news vans lined the street. The story of Olivia Moore had become national, the pregnant billionaire's wife who stood up to her cheating husband and turned his downfall into her rise. Every outlet wanted a glimpse of her. Inside her private room, Olivia lay in bed, pale but glowing, her hair loose around her shoulders. 2 bassinets sat beside her, one wrapped in a blue blanket, one in pink. Her twins, a boy and a girl, perfect, tiny, real. She couldn't stop staring at them. Every breath, every twitch of their fingers, every sound they made was proof that she'd made it. Through humiliation, through betrayal, through heartbreak, she'd survived. The door opened quietly and Charles Bennett stepped in with a warm smile. You did it, he said softly. How do you feel? Like I can finally breathe, she whispered. He smiled. The world can't stop talking about you. They're calling you the billion-dollar mother. Olivia laughed lightly. They always have to make it about money. She looked down at her children again. They're all that matters now. Charles placed a folder on the table beside her bed. Rest today. We'll finalize everything tomorrow morning. After that, you'll never have to hear the name Daniel Moore again. Unless you want to. Olivia nodded slowly. Thank you, Charles. For everything, he gave her a small bow of the head. Your father would have been proud. As he left, she reached out and touched both tiny hands in the bassinets. Your grandfather made sure I could protect you, she whispered, and I promise, I will. Hours later, as dusk fell over the city, the elevator doors opened at the far end of the corridor. Daniel Moore stepped out. His suit was wrinkled. His eyes were bloodshot. His once carefully styled hair was messy, his jaw covered with stubble. He looked nothing like the man who once graced magazine covers. A nurse spotted him immediately and stiffened. Mr. Moore, you can't be here. Mrs. Moore, she's my wife, he snapped. The nurse hesitated. Security said, I just want to see my children, he said, his voice breaking for the first time in weeks. The nurse looked unsure, then quietly stepped aside. 5 minutes, she said. Daniel walked down the hallway slowly, his footsteps echoing against the sterile floor. Each step felt heavier. When he reached Olivia's door, he stopped. For a long moment, he just stared at the nameplate beside it. Olivia Bennett Moore. She'd added her father's name back. He knocked once, quietly. Come in, came her soft voice. Daniel opened the door. Olivia looked up, startled for a moment, then calm again. The twins slept peacefully beside her. He stood in the doorway, lost for words. You shouldn't be here, she said finally. I needed to see you, he murmured, and them. Her eyes followed his gaze to the bassinets. You've seen enough, Daniel. The cameras saw everything. I didn't come for that, he said quickly. I came because... He swallowed hard. I've lost everything, Olivia. She looked at him quietly. You chose that. He took a hesitant step closer. I didn't mean for it to end like this. I thought I was in control. I thought... He broke off, voice shaking. I don't even know what I thought anymore. Olivia tilted her head slightly. Control. That's all you ever wanted, Daniel. Control of your image, your money, your mother, me. He sank into the chair beside her bed, covering his face with his hands. You won, he said finally. Okay? You won. What do you want from me? She watched him for a long moment before answering. Her voice was quiet even, but it filled the room. Nothing, she said. I already own what you wanted most. He looked up, confused. What are you talking about? But before she could answer, there was a knock at the door. Charles Bennett stepped inside again, carrying a black briefcase. I'm sorry to interrupt, he said, glancing at Daniel, but since you're both here, this might be the right moment. Daniel frowned. Who the hell are you? Charles Bennett, he said smoothly, Olivia's lawyer, and the man who's about to end whatever hope you still think you have. Daniel's face hardened. You have no right to be here. Charles ignored him. He opened the briefcase and pulled out several thick documents, placing them on the table near Olivia's bed. These are the final transfer papers. Moore Enterprises is now officially under new ownership. Daniel froze. What? Olivia's expression was calm, almost serene. I told you, Daniel. I already own what you wanted, most, his voice rose. You can't. That company is mine. It was yours, Charles said dryly. But over the last several weeks, through legal channels and silent acquisition, the majority shares were purchased under Bennett Holdings. As of this morning, Mrs. Moore is the controlling owner. Daniel turned to her, disbelief twisting his face. You bought my company? Olivia smiled faintly. No, I transformed it. He blinked, stunned. What? She nodded toward the paperwork. It's no longer called Moore Enterprises. It's been renamed the Moore Foundation for Women and Children. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Your company, she continued softly, will now build homes for single mothers and fund scholarships for girls who can't afford education. That's what legacy looks like. For a long moment, Daniel just stared at her. Eyes wide, chest rising and falling fast. Then slowly, his shoulders slumped. You turned my empire into a charity? She met his eyes. No, I turned it into something useful. Daniel stood frozen. His face was pale, his hands trembling. For the first time in his life, he looked small. He tried to speak, but the words stumbled out broken. You can't do this to me. You don't know what you're doing, Olivia. You've destroyed everything I built. Olivia's voice was steady. You destroyed it when you built it on cruelty. I worked for that company, he shouted, his voice cracking. I gave it my life. You gave it your lies, she said softly. Your company was rotting from the inside. You just didn't notice because everyone was too scared to tell you the truth. He turned to Charles, desperate. This can't be legal. There's no way she... It's perfectly legal, Charles interrupted, his tone calm. The documents were verified by federal regulators this morning. You signed enough fraudulent statements to make this transition easier than we expected. Daniel stumbled backward a step, gripping the wall. You planned this, he muttered. You've been planning this for months. Olivia met his gaze. No, Daniel. You planned your own downfall. I just made sure you couldn't drag me down with you. He looked at the bassinets, at the twins he'd barely glanced at since entering the room. His expression softened for a moment, as if he might say something human. I just wanted to see them, he whispered. My children. Olivia followed his gaze. You should have thought about them before you humiliated their mother in front of the world. He looked away. I didn't know you'd... He stopped himself. I thought you'd beg. That's what you do. Her voice turned quiet. You thought wrong. For a moment the room was silent, except for the rhythmic sound of the heart monitor beside her bed. Then Olivia reached for the papers Charles had brought and began signing one more document, slowly, deliberately. Daniel's voice trembled. What now? You run the company? You think that makes you better than me? She looked at him, her expression calm. No, it makes me free. He frowned, confused. What do you mean? Olivia handed the last signed document to Charles. That's the official transfer. I'm resigning from all public roles. The company and the trust fund will both be managed under a board for my children's future. I won't take a cent. Daniel blinked. You're giving it away? She nodded. I didn't buy it to own it, Daniel. I bought it so you couldn't. For a moment, he just stared at her, his mouth slightly open. Then he laughed, a broken, hollow sound. You're insane, he said. You think this makes you noble? No, she said, her tone firm but gentle. It just makes me done. Daniel's laugh faded. His eyes darted around the room. The flowers, the monitors, the bassinets, as if trying to find something to hold on to, some trace of the life that used to be his. But there was nothing left. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and scrolled through the notifications. Angry messages, news alerts, endless comments mocking him. He threw it on the floor, the glass shattering. This isn't over, he whispered. It can't be over. Olivia watched him quietly. It's been over for a long time. You just never noticed. He stared at her again, his eyes red, his pride gone. What do I do now, Olivia? She looked at him, her expression softening, not with pity, but finality. You learn. You sit with what you've done. You live with it. That's your punishment. For the first time in years, he had no words. His shoulders sagged. His hands fell to his sides. He nodded weakly, then turned toward the door. At the threshold, he paused and looked back at the twins, his children. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He left the room silently. The sound of his footsteps faded down the hall. Charles exhaled quietly and turned to Olivia. Are you sure about resigning? You could build an empire from this foundation. Olivia shook her head. I don't want an empire. I want peace. He smiled faintly. Then you've earned it. An hour later, the hospital corridor was empty except for one man sitting alone on a bench. Daniel Moore. He stared blankly at the floor, the weight of everything pressing down on him. The lost company, the ruined name, the wife who no longer feared him. From inside Olivia's room came the faint sound of babies crying, the only reminder of the life he'd thrown away. He buried his face in his hands. For the first time in his life, Daniel Moore wept. The next morning, sunlight poured through the hospital windows. Olivia stood by the glass, holding both twins, one in each arm. She wore a simple blue dress and a soft smile that didn't need words. Outside, reporters swarmed. Security struggled to hold them back as flashes went off like fireworks. She stepped carefully toward the exit, the twins bundled in white blankets. The crowd erupted with questions. "Mrs. Moore, how does it feel to own the company that once destroyed you?" Olivia paused. The microphones reached forward like hands grabbing for her words. She looked up, her expression calm, her voice clear. "I didn't buy it to own it," she said softly. "I bought it so he couldn't." The crowd went silent. Cameras clicked. A few reporters exchanged stunned looks. Then she smiled faintly, adjusting the twins in her arms. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have better things to build." She walked past them, her steps slow and sure, the morning sun lighting her path. Behind her, the hospital doors slid shut, sealing off the noise, the chaos, the past. Ahead of her, the city glowed, vast and alive, full of possibilities she could finally call her own. Later, in the back of the black car that drove her home, she gazed out the window, the twins sleeping beside her. The skyline shimmered in the distance, the same skyline she used to look at from Daniel's penthouse, feeling trapped. Now it felt different. Now it looked like freedom. Charles sat in the passenger seat, glancing back with a soft smile. "Where to, Mrs. Moore?" Olivia turned her head, watching the babies breathe peacefully. "Home," she said. "Not the mansion, the real one." Charles nodded, understanding without needing more words. "As you wish." The car moved through the city streets, the noise of the world fading behind them. Olivia closed her eyes, letting the warmth of the sun touch her face. For the first time in years, there was no fear, no anger, just peace. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "We made it." The car disappeared down the avenue, carrying her toward a new beginning, one not built on revenge or wealth, but on quiet strength and freedom. Because when a woman rises from the fire, she doesn't rebuild the cage. She buys it, locks it, and walks away.